Welcome, all my cat daddies out there, to another episode of Hit Music R Us, a podcast about two smooth, cool guys who tour the world finding the major pop sounds of the earth and try to create the one song that will bring the whole world together.
All right, Aaron, I finally got that. That was pretty good. Honestly, you like in the first 2 seconds of the intro, you had me. I was about ready to just die. I had to like cover my mic. I was out. But welcome everybody to another podcast of the Evil Safety Dudes. That's right. I got Aaron and myself and the IBC Fort. We're hanging out, recording podcasts for your ears to enjoy. I'm joined in the studio today with Aaron Iacino. He is an authorized outreach OSHA instructor in the general industry and construction.
Iacino. How many syllables can we break that down? And I'm joined by AJ Hanscom, the one and only author outreach instructor extraordinaire.
Author?
And
I heard that.
And he, it's hoisting and rigging today.
We're doing hoisting and rigging today.
So, the fact that you are a construction outreach instructor
is pretty relevant.
You know what, though? It's everywhere. It's contractors,
almost every
general
single
industry.
They're dealing with those gantry cranes.
You can't get away from hoisting and rigging.
Right.
Welcome to our show about all things OSHA and how not to die at work. So, as we alluded to earlier, this show is about hoisting and rigging. So before you switch to the Joe Rogan podcast, you need to stay over here because your people use hoists and rigging.
I mean, more than likely.
Yeah.
At some point, all
if
of
you
your
work at
employees
a
are gonna run into
bank,
it.
you could probably skip this episode.
No, but don't. We're still fun.
If you work at,
Aaron's lying to you. You can't skip this episode.
You could probably skip this episode.
Again, no, you probably can't because we're going to say awesome things you need to hear.
In a plant, if you work as any type of contractor, you should not skip this episode.
So when you say if you work in a plant, I just picture myself inside of like a flowery
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids
plant. Yeah.
No,
and I work inside of it
industry,
like a Keebler elf.
Well, if you make Keebler elf cookies, you need to watch the show.
Crap, I went the wrong way.
Because you work in an industrial food manufacturing setting, and I guarantee if I went into your maintenance folks' rooms, I'm going to find 20 rigging straps, and I'm putting money on the table right now. 10 of them are bad.
Dude,
10 of them are OSHA violations.
You think half of them? Half.
For sure. Easy peasy. If we haven't done an inspection before,
man.
No, it's easy peasy, easy money. If we haven't done an audit for them and they haven't had an audit by somebody actually checking, just like business as usual, time going on, no one's really looked. Because nobody throws away bad straps.
That's true. Bold of you to assume. And there's a lot of that we got to break down.
But I got like 20 years on the line of experience. Like,
I mean, yeah. How often is it? It's so often.
If I go to a new client and I don't see bad rigging, I'm like,
yeah, I mean,
you already did this before I came.
Yeah, that's a pretty good indication that those people are going to be. Show me where you just
threw this away 5 minutes ago.
Yeah,
I want to see the bad stuff.
Yeah, where's your dumpster? Hey, Aaron, why are you asking for the dumpster right off the bat?
Because you don't have bad rigging.
They immediately get like shifty-eyed and they're like, we don't have a dumpster.
Oh man, I've seen some of the worst straps in the world.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I doubt they're the worst in the world. I think
know
we've
we
just
have
seen
a
bad
format,
ones.
but I got to launch into this one story.
We
I was doing an inspection one time, and from across this room, I see a rigging strap that's completely severed.
It's cut in half.
It's been ripped in half, and they tied a knot to put it back together.
And still just used it.
And it was with their other stuff, their other rigging.
Just
so I had
business as usual.
Yeah. It's still good. Our knot's good. I'm good at knots.
I was a Boy Scout. How dare you?
So I see this strap across the room,
right? And
I start beeline for it. Well, the lead man, he sees all this happening. He sees me look at it. He sees me walking towards it. Now, he's closer to it than I am. And this dude was fast on his feet. I got to give him mad respect for his improv skills. Nah, he kind of nonchalantly I was across the room.
Right.
So he just goes and grabs it. He goes, "Hey, Aaron, we know you love busted stuff for your training, and we've been saving this until we saw you."
Yeah. And
I was like, good one. You would never have used this. So, of course not. Safety's my middle name.
Yeah.
If I had $1 for every time I heard somebody said, "Safety's my middle name," I'd have like $35. But, dude, that's a good lunch.
I like how you put a number on it too. Like you didn't just genuinely.
Well,
I'd
people
have a
say
lot
a
of dollars.
millionaire, but that's a lie.
You could say I'd have
If
several
I had
dollars.
a dime every time, if you really did the math, you'd only have a couple bucks.
Aaron's over here about 35.
But that's a lot if you think about it.
I mean, it's not bad. That's pretty good.
So anyway, hoisting and rigging, it's a big
Hoisting
deal.
and rigging, we do.
It's everywhere.
But since we don't get together too often, honestly, our podcast time is
Right,
small. It's a
right.
little niche time we got. So why don't you give me an update? Tell me a little about yourself. What's going on? What's new since the last time I talked to you?
It's winter,
Yeah.
and I hate winter.
Yeah.
I grew up in a desert, and I can't wait for it to get over with. But what I'm happy to report today
All right.
is it is rounding the bend.
I mean, we're near it.
Once we get all the way through
We're there.
February into March, I'm feeling really solid. 40-degree temps, snow comes, but it goes. Like, I'm happy once we get to March. But so we're getting closer, so I'm happy about that.
Just
So
about there.
that's my big personal report.
Yeah,
What
I
do you
like it.
What do you got going?
I've been doing more cardio. A horrific amount of cardio. I'm actually I'm proud of myself for how much cardio I've been doing, but I hate cardio.
Is it like a shred season for you?
Yeah. We're trying to lose our weight.
Do you do cardio in a bulk season?
I mean, you still do some cardio. You always got to do some cardio. but
Okay.
It's horrible work. It's terrible stuff. Nobody wants to do it, but I've doubled my cardio. So it's
Well, that's good. Good for you.
yeah, we're hitting a lot. I'm not happy. It's depressing.
So back to hoisting and rigging now. Let's talk about actual real life OSHA cases.
Okay.
I have worked several. One just recently. One was a fatality I worked a long time ago. Had nothing actually to do with hoisting and rigging. They just found that while they were there. But a big issue that OSHA is finding, and pretty much is always going to bust you on, is homemade rigging.
Oh yeah, that was an OSHA case we had to work.
Yeah, I've worked several of them where, maybe there's something out there that some manufacturer has created that would work, but they're a manufacturer themselves. They build stuff out of metal. They have every metal machine you'd ever want.
They build parts for stuff.
Yeah,
they're the people you would get this from.
They could totally fab a hook. I can't tell you how many shop fabbed hooks, rigging hooks. A hook used to suspend a load in the air that I've
Is it
seen.
about 35?
No, this is about $1 million. I'm serious, man. I actually there was a death too not too long ago in Nebraska and a catastrophic injury where one of those homemade hooks failed. Killed one guy, really jacked up another guy. And when OSHA comes, what are they going to look for on that rigging?
Well, they're going to want to see the ratings.
Yeah, the working load limit.
Yep.
Has it been stamped and rated by an engineer? Has it been
What is
through
the
all
capacity?
these fancy load tests?
Mm-hmm.
It's written down in OSHA. You can go to ANSI. Like, what has to happen for you to say it could lift this weight? How do you do the test? Like, that has to be done. It has to be stamped and rated. You need, and a lot of people they're not doing that when they make it.
Well, yeah, because you got to go through the whole process of having the engineer do the math and say, okay, if we use this process and this material and we create and form it this way, this should be what it does. But then, like you said, it has to be tested because there are possibilities for defects or, a malformed part, which would be another defect. Or, there could be all sorts of other little weird issues that go through it that they would have to make sure by testing.
Right. And, when you don't do it, you don't know how much it could hold.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a working load limit.
Right.
And OSHA's going to ask, that crane you got to hook to, if it's an indoor gantry crane, that's a 2-ton. How much could your hook hold? I don't know. We make it.
Yeah,
We've used it this way for 70 years, and it's always held what we do it.
Right.
So it's we know it's good. But
this hook is older than OSHA.
OSHA doesn't accept that answer. So, yeah, homemade rigging I've seen cause a lot of citations.
Oh, heck yeah.
What else you got for top OSHA violations on rigging?
Hoisting and rigging. So we already went over how you love to find bad slings.
But describe a bad sling.
Okay, so
let's go just synthetic fiber.
Well, so if I had to pick one of my top, though, I would honestly say keepers are missing. Missing keepers. Easy peasy
okay,
find.
Okay, so you're going
find.
back to the crane itself.
Well,
the gantry crane.
Yeah, or hooks. Because you'll have keepers on all sorts of different pieces of hoisting.
How would you
and rigging.
describe a keeper to the listening audience who doesn't know what we're talking about?
So it's a hook, and there's a little flap or paddle that's spring-loaded that closes the mouth of that hook so that you could store slack there, or even sometimes it'll just hold the hook and maybe in place, before you're actually lifting or putting pressure on it.
And so that little flimsy keeper breaks off all the time.
Well, yeah, because they're not designed to do any weight, any pressure, and they just get snapped off.
What about synthetic fiber straps? What's the main OSHA violations you see with those?
Well, damage. Well, just in general, damage.
Like what? You see them on fire all the time?
Yeah, well, yeah. The guy will literally hang it up and it's on fire. And I'm like, that doesn't look right. And they're like, nah, that's how it's always on fire. It's been on fire for 20 years. What are you talking about? It's the same fire from 20 years ago. Here it is in the background of my picture on fire. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But no, it's either one of two things with those synthetics is you're going to find damage, whether it be, from heat, for maybe it was near some welding, maybe it was stored
tattered,
improperly.
Peppered up.
Yeah. Or maybe it was, hit with some acid or phenolics or something not cool that, caustics.
Chemical degradation.
Yeah.
A stain.
Or it was just on a sharp edge,
Cuts.
And it got, one thing I've seen, especially a lot with my HVAC guys, is these things will get caught on the corner of the box.
Okay.
And so they'll have it slung around the four corners near the bottom, but then when they start putting pressure on it, that one sling will catch a corner or a sharp edge or one of those lifting gears that didn't get quite taken off.
Right.
And it'll cut that.
I've seen a brand new rigging strap, synthetic fiber, get cut like a hot knife through butter.
Oof.
Once you start applying that pressure, this one
It's just gonna
happened
go.
to hit a handle because when the pressure got on it, they started moving in, and it's just slid next to this handle on this machine part, and it just like a hot knife through butter.
Just cut it right in half.
If you were to take a knife and try to cut those things, it's going to take you a minute.
It's going to be tough.
But with all that pressure on there, it's just boom.
Thousands of pounds.
Yeah,
but
I see cuts all the time.
the other one is that you can't read the strap.
Yeah, the working
Huge
load
violation.
limit label is illegible or missing. Yeah, I see that all the time.
Yeah.
One of the other big issues I see is people don't know the difference between rigging and towing gear.
Well, I shouldn't say it. Never mind. I'm not going to insult the listening audience. But what I will say is that the difference is easy. It's really easy.
Well, okay, then why don't you explain it in an easy way for us?
All right. Rigging straps have a giant working load limit tag.
So that tag, it gets you 3 different weight ratings.
Right.
One for vertical, one for choker, and one for basket.
Mm-hmm.
And a towing strap, it may look the exact same color,
Could be
width,
identical
same
configuration.
thickness, same manufacturer.
Could
even,
be.
But it doesn't have that working load limit.
Nope.
label.
It just has a little, more like a T-shirt tag. Like it doesn't have a big patch sewn into it. It has just kind of like a little.
Or nothing.
Yeah.
It just got the name kind of dyed onto it or whatever.
Sometimes that's all you have left. But usually when they're brand new and they haven't been thrown around, they'll have that little like a T-shirt tag and it'll say, tow capacity.
Oh, okay.
5,000 pounds.
Yeah. So I've seen so many times people using towing equipment to rig with. And OSHA's going to get them every single time.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have no idea how much that's going to hold before it fails. So that's a big one. Go through all the equipment, separate the towing from the rigging, from the fall protection, have labeled storage, make sure they're not stored together, make sure your folks are using the right gear for the right application.
Mm-hmm.
And we can save a lot of lives. We could save a lot of damage.
It's always the goal.
I just worked a case where a guy was life flighted because some homemade rigging gave way, and whatever he was lifting knocked him down, smashed him against something else, and tore a big pipe in his body. And he survived. He's back at it. But
yeah, what I heard was it was actually his aorta. Like it crushed him so hard.
Yep. And so, we could avoid a lot of this stuff by just using the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
Right? Using the right tool for the job.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's talk about chain for rigging.
So your alloy steel chains, they have their own requirement. They have a lot of requirements, actually. Alloy steel chains do. But any alloy steel chains used for overhead rigging have to be annually inspected and documented.
Documented annual inspection, besides your pre-use.
Right, so your pre-use inspection.
Physical. Like OSHA could say, oh, you got rigging chains.
Mm-hmm.
Show me your 2020 annual inspection on that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like, what? They could cite you.
Now, your documented inspection has to record that chain, like, it has to identify the chain. And so your dog tag that should be on that chain, which honestly you can't use that chain for overhead lifting without that dog tag. Well, you can't use that chain for hoisting and rigging, period, without that dog tag. But that dog tag is going to have a serial number for that chain on it, and that's just what I always recommend.
Can't name them ourselves, like Bertha.
Yeah, you can't just be like Bertha the chain. No.
You know, it's got a
Yeah.
serial number makes sense because it's really
That's the
hard
one I
to
use.
mark on them anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, as long as you had some kind of identifier, like
Yeah.
if you only had 4 chains
Yeah.
and maybe like they had length, you could be like, this is my 20 foot, my 15, my 10, and my 5.
Yeah, I could see that. It makes sense.
Right. But, you know, for a lot of these companies, they've got 8 identical chains. So I'm sitting there writing down these serial numbers and doing all the investigations. But when I do that, you want to let me know exactly what I'm looking for when I pop open and look at all the barrels and the bearings inside the chain?
I think you're just blowing smoke now.
Oh, no. So what I was saying was, sorry, maybe I didn't set that question up very well.
I've never seen a bearing inside a change.
What? That's what it's called. So when you take a chain link and you flip it sideways, the place where the 2 chain heads
rub together
is called the bearing.
Okay.
And
Learning
then
something new.
Really? Okay. Well, cool. So yeah, you need to investigate that bearing. And
I knew how to inspect it. I just didn't know the name.
Oh.
And most people never do that.
You have to do that.
I wish you guys could see a visual, but how you turn the chain link horizontal and take the pressure off
and turn it sideways.
And if it's all pitted and ground in there and there's
or
a
like
rut.
Like 3/4 of it missing.
Yeah.
There was a plant Aaron and I go to all the time. We do tons of training for them. And they use this overhead gantry crane to lift and move these heavy machine parts in and out of these machines all the time. A couple times a week, they have to move these big, heavy machine parts. And then when I was teaching them their hoisting and rigging, going through all their training and saying, hey, you got to inspect those, they were like, we've never inspected those. And I'm like, Aaron and I teach you guys this every year. How have you never done it? And they were like, well, could you show us? I'm like, okay. So we go out, and yeah, the cross member across these 2 chains was really heavy. They were like, see, we can't lift it up to look at it. I was like, well, how about we just drop the chains all the way to the floor and then pick them up off the floor? And they were like, oh.
Right.
Like it was just, they just needed somebody on the outside to look at it and get their mind out of their, their one-dimensional line of thought. And I'm not kidding, Aaron, when we did that and we pulled those and we looked inside that chain that day I inspected, they did a plant shutdown the next time they had to do a parts change because those chains they had about a 4th left.
You might have just saved a life.
I could have saved somebody's life.
You saved somebody's life. You're a hero.
I think that every day.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, I'm like, I'm a hero.
Unsung heroes.
I know, it's very tragic.
The evil safety dudes.
It's lonely on top.
Yes. So,
I'm so terrible.
So those go bad. Definitely check that dog tag that's on that.
Let's go to
wire rope slings.
I hate wire ropes. I would rather not have to deal with them.
I don't. I think more and more people are going to synthetic, but I still see a fair amount of wire rope slings and chain slings. And the wire rope, you can't have bird caging, where it twists, come back. You can't have too many broken wires. OSHA could have what's that called, a micrometer, and they could measure the wire rope diameter.
Yep.
And if it's supposed to be a 3/4 cable or 3/8 cable, and it's no longer that, it is slender, they could tell you've overloaded it, and that's damaged. If there's any permanent kinks in it.
Now, how can you tell if a wire rope is kinked?
Well, if you lay it on the ground and it stays in a certain shape.
So it has to basically lay flat.
Better if I took it and I took the mechanical splice. By the way, it has to have mechanical splice. If I took that mechanical splice eye and I hung it on something, and it still looks like a J instead of the gravity, it should be like
should make it pretty much straight.
Should be a noodle.
Yeah.
When you hang it up, it should be vertical. But if it's still like a J,
an S shape
or
in
a
midair,
C,
right?
That's got a kink where OSHA could say, "Oh, this is damaged."
Yep. So it's just got to go back to straight. And then they actually, depending on the manufacturer, you have to read your rules, but they must be lubricated depending on the manufacturer at certain intervals based on use or time, and then with certain types of lubricant. You have to treat these things.
So they could have a PM, a preventive maintenance schedule, just like a machine.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if OSHA was going to go super crazy and dig deep, they could try to get model, make, serial number from there, do some digging, see the PM requirements, ask for service records. I've never seen that happen, but And besides OSHA not
that's
busting
just to keep it safe. Yeah.
You probably just want to do it anyway, make sure it's working for you.
I don't see anybody lubricating them. Here's one thing that just came up here this last year. I was helping one of my companies shop floor. They needed this 3-foot. They wanted it to be wire rope, and it was supposed to be like 12 ton, and they needed a bunch of them. And they're like, oh, sweet, check this out. These ones are $325. Oh, but wait, this one right next to it's identical, but it's like $1,200. They're like, why is this 4 times the price? And we couldn't figure it out. We're looking, we're reading, until finally I noticed when I was reading the cheap one, it said right on the label, not very big, but it was on there. It said 1-time use only.
What?
But yeah, it saved you a quarter of the price, but it said could be loaded beyond 25% capacity once.
Wow. It's crazy.
So you could load it up to 12 tons. You could do a critical lift and go to 100% or past 25. Like, that's your range, but you get to do that one time.
Wow.
And then you're supposed to throw it away. But I would honestly throw money out there that people don't read the label.
Right.
Buy the cheap one.
Right.
And then it's in the gang box
It's
for,
there,
10, 15 years.
And honestly, it's going to be hard for OSHA to catch them that they're not using it according to those manufacturer specs, because it's not like there's a label book
No,
on it
all that's going to be left
around.
is the dog tag.
And it looks just
if
like
that.
everybody else's.
They honestly look the same.
Yeah. Let's talk about those rigging inspections, because they don't put expiration dates on rigging.
No. Well, not all rigging.
So if
assuming somewhere
you're like,
there.
hey, new guy, do our rigging inspection for us.
Mhm.
OSHA set forth some criteria that they're supposed to consider.
Right, about who does it.
Well, not that, but like what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
Like, what do you
yeah.
consider? So, for instance, one of them would be the capacity of usage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I using this at max capacity?
That's a good question.
Another one would be like, how often do I use it?
Right.
The other one's like the environment I'm using it in.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking about all these things, and you're realizing, whoa, I've had this 10 years. I use it max capacity all the time in super harsh environments.
Yeah.
Now it looks good, but considering that I've actually thought about my rigging strap.
Right. Yeah,
nobody does.
No.
I should probably just replace this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what OSHA wants us to do.
Yep.
Just really, really get ahead of it. Don't wait till it breaks and fails for us to go, now we need to get a new one. Why do you think people don't get rid of bad straps?
Well, they're expensive.
Yeah, they can be.
They can be very expensive.
Yeah, some of them wire ones were, but synthetic fiber straps not that bad.
Well, I mean, maybe the amount that they would have to be replacing.
Yeah,
at those
if you got to
intervals.
buy 100,
Yeah.
they're $40 a pop. That'll bite you a little
Mhm.
bit. Yeah, but I've seen this weird thing where they're sentimental about it.
This strap has been with me for
Yeah,
10
I
years.
use this and I'm talking about this thing was bright yellow when it was bought, and now
Mhm.
it's black as tar, literally, because it has tar and oil
Right.
and grease all over
It's
it.
just
You're seeing, you can't even see the red threads from the cut so deep because it's just so dirty,
so
and
dyed from
used,
use.
and it's got frays and snags,
Mm.
and it's got pepper marks from welding spatter, and like they're getting mad at me because I'm like, this needs to go away now.
Right.
Like, again, it's that evil safety dude thing. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, you safety guy, you want to take my strap from me? And it's not even yours. It's the company's.
Right.
Like, you don't buy it. But
they feel like personal feelings to the strap.
They're getting angry.
Oh, I haven't encountered it yet, but maybe someday I will. Maybe I'll run into somebody who's like real sentimental about their rigging
Yeah,
strap.
totally. And
Don't take my rigging strap. No.
And again, I'm coming from the point of, this is like a loaded gun.
This is death waiting to happen.
This is like a bear trap, laying around.
Yep.
You
Trap
know,
is set. It
you
just
know,
needs to get sprung.
This is something that's probably going to hurt somebody or something.
Right.
And they don't see it that way. They just see Old Faithful.
Good old Faithful. She done every lift I ever done did her.
And people are funny. They get that way about bad tools, too.
I mean, no, that's true.
Yeah,
Honestly, I've seen that about tools. That, and I mean that's fair. I've seen plenty of people get that way about a bad tool. This is the thing that I use all the time. It's always there for me. I bought a new tool, didn't work half as good as the old one, so I just went back to the old one.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, I'm on board all of a sudden with the sentimental rigging strap.
So what cool videos just that you could describe, do you show when you do your hoisting and rigging training? Any crazy catastrophic accidents?
Yeah, I got some
anything?
really neat ones. Probably one of the kind of the most shocking ones is this video of this crew of guys. They're installing skyscraper windows. And they're so proud of their company. They actually make all their installers wear GoPros so that they have these really cool videos of them hanging off the outside of buildings.
It just shows all their OSHA violations.
Yeah. But it's cool videos, like all these guys hanging and doing all the suspended work and installing these windows. It was really neat. And so they're on the outside of this, and it's like 80-story building, and they got this window, and it's being lifted. So you know that these are the professionals of the professionals. They're the most like sought after, highest paid.
Okay.
And that's one of those. That's what I use as my talking point. Is even if you're a professional, you can still forget to do your inspections. And they get this window all the way up. They're getting to the point where they're trying to put it in place. And right when they do, the rigging just snaps. And the window just starts to free fall. And it gets about halfway down the building, catches the air and scoots away, and then just slams right into the side of the building and goes through a bunch of windows. And you see all this glass like flying out.
I haven't seen that one.
It's just kind of like, it's kind of shocking. But
I got the same one I've shown for a million years where the rigging breaks and it smashes that car.
Yeah.
And you think the little Pomeranian dog died, and you don't really know. And then the crane operator gets out and starts running.
It's so funny.
I know, it's so funny.
I love it. They turn down the street, and he's just sprinting away. Like, oh my gosh, it's so funny.
Yeah, he's out of there.
There's so many good ones for bad hoisting and rigging, though. Yeah. Like, there's so many. And what it usually is they'll just show something being lifted, and then all of a sudden, and for no apparent reason, the rigging just snaps.
Okay, AJ quiz of the podcast. Ready?
Is this going to be a theme now?
I think so.
We have reached the time in the podcast where AJ's being quizzed.
You could, fire back.
I mean, I guess.
What's a softener?
What's a softener? So a softener is the things that you try to use to pad the edges of your slings from like sharp edges. So like if you're lifting something with sharp corners, you might stuff like a hoodie in there or some cardboard.
I'm not using my hoodie.
You gotta use my hoodie.
I use the new guy's hoodie.
That's right. Get that nice and used out. Or you throw a nice leather jacket in there, or seat covers. No, but probably like cardboard, or whatever you got laying around.
I use cardboard.
The high-vis vest you never wear. Stuff that in there.
Or I've used a high-vis vest that somebody threw away. That's just, they didn't make it into the trash. It's just laying on the floor.
And so the idea of a softener is something that softens. You can't see me making bunny ears, but in quotes, it softens that edge and makes it so that it isn't going to cut your hoisting and rigging gear, whatever you have there that could be contacting that sharp edge.
Yeah, when people put a synthetic fiber strap on a rusty, crusty I-beam,
right,
and put a whole bunch of weight on it, some of that rust makes like a serrated edge.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how well cardboard does to protect it. You don't think cardboard's anything, but as a softener, I think it works great.
I honestly, in that situation, works pretty good. We've used softeners before, though, even for alloy steel chains, just because if you're lifting something that's just got like a tin box or a steel box, and you got that chain, yanking on that hard
it doesn't
corner,
hurt the thing you're lifting.
Or either way, we just didn't want those two things scratching and interacting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so we just separated them from each other.
What I've done a lot is these truckers who bring into the site something huge on a flatbed. It could be a rooftop unit, could be a vessel, could be a load of steel.
Yeah.
They have softeners on their straps that they hold down their load with.
Okay.
And it's strips of carpet.
Oh, heck yeah.
They have strips of carpet they put on the load, and then their tie-down straps go around it, and it does the same exact thing. It protects the strap. It protects the product.
Well, that's awesome because you got like that big poofy part, but then you've also got that like reinforced bottom.
When they're unloading, it's always just like laying around the site. Like those carpet straps are everywhere.
Just everywhere.
So what I would do is I would go pick them up and save them, and then when we had to rig or something,
you just had them.
Yeah. So,
dude, that is not a bad idea. I like that.
Yeah. So carpet works good. Thank you, truckers, for littering the sites and leaving those around.
Your wonderful accident.
I got a joke for you.
All right. This is the first joke of the podcast, everyone. Knock, knock. I'm just kidding.
This is not funny by any means, but it's something that I've noticed over the years. If you need to find an electrician on a construction site, what do you do?
I don't know. What do you do?
Follow the trail of zip ties.
Okay.
Yeah, it's totally not funny, but I'm telling you, there's zip ties like, oh, electricians must be near. It's like electrician droppings. It's just like they shed zip ties wherever they go.
So like if I start looking around on job sites or start seeing those big zip ties like cut, I'm just like, oh, it's a big one.
Even uncut, just falling out of them when they walk.
They just sprinkle out of them.
It just drips all over everywhere. Yeah, zip ties.
There must be an electrician nearby.
Yes, that's how you
my Sparky senses are tingling.
All right, guys. Well, that concludes another podcast, number 14 on hoisting and rigging.
Hoisting and rigging.
And so don't die. Don't let
Please
a load
don't die.
drop on you. Don't ever be under a suspended load. Check all your rigging before you use it. Make sure you have a competent person on site to do that. Make sure you're using rigging and not towing equipment.
That's right.
Make sure you're storing it right. And don't die and don't damage equipment either.
We've had several of you guys now listening for the last couple of weeks. And just in case anybody has any ideas for podcasts they want to hear, our numbers have been going up. You shoot us an email or respond to the Evil Safety Dudes, and we'll see if we can make a podcast based on your needs.
Awesome possum. All right, guys. Until next time.
Later.
AJ and Aaron are out.